Well, welcome to another episode of the Finding Joy podcast. I'm Jerry Williams, along with Rob Langer and Benji Shepard. We are shining a spotlight on the joy that exists in the lives of people all around us. And this week, we're going to go to Warner Robins to meet with Juan Devevo.
Now, Juan is the guitarist for Casting Crowns. He's also married to Melody, who's one of the vocalists, and I think, violin player for Casting Crowns. But, Juan has been kind of dipping his toe in the water into something new. Stand-up comedy.
Right, yeah, and I've heard about this for a little while, and I thought as soon as we started doing this podcast, this was one of my ideas, sort of like, it was kind of like a bucket list thing, but it has come to fruition now that I knew that Juan was doing stand-up comedy, and I just needed to find somebody that knew him to
make the introduction.
To make the introduction. There. And one of our more recent guests on the Finding Joy podcast, Jason Horde, gave me his phone number. So just out of the blue, I texted him.
Just some schmo from somewhere texting the guy who plays guitar in Casting Crowns.
Yeah. So he was interested. He thought it would be fun for us to talk to him about his stand-up comedy. So that's exactly what we did.
So all of us set out on a road trip because Juan lives in Madison, which is in the Athens area, but there was an open mic night in Warner Robins in Middle Georgia. So we converged and we met at a Starbucks in Warner Robins prior to him doing this open mic.
Okay, before we mess this up, because we will if we didn't get any direction on this.
Okay.
His name.
I was going to ask him about that.
Yes.
I was going to start with that.
You start with it.
So there's been some confusion about your name. At first they told me we were coming to see you. I said, I've already seen that movie. I thought they said Jumanji. But it's spelled like...
Jerry, he's the comedian. Come on, man.
It smells like...
I'm not a comedian.
It's spelled like Juan, but you pronounce it Juwan.
Juwan. It's Italian.
Is there a story?
You know what's funny? I wish there was a story. I need to write a story. Make up a story. It's just... they... have the Spanish influence. Like my grandfather came from Italy, and in the south of Italy they have a Spanish influence on the language. So they spell it one way and say it another, I guess is the way they do it. But I'm named after my dad, actually. On this.
Oh, okay.
I'm Juan Jr.
And how do you pronounce your last name?
Devevo.
Devevo.
What did you think it was?
What was the guess?
I was thinking Devevo.
At least you were trying.
Is it spelled with an E or an I?
E.
Because people will put L's and R's in there. You know what's funny is that's like my whole bit tonight.
We're just warming you up.
Right.
That's my whole bit about my name. It's funny because that's the whole first 5 minutes of every conversation. Is like, it's Juan, it's Italian, it's Devevo. It's with the E's, you say the long E's. That's okay.
When you were a kid, though, did it bother you that your name was kind of tough?
I don't remember. The only time it bothered me was so you're at the doctor's office and there's like 20 people in there, like Del Vecchio, and you're not paying attention. You're like, no, that's me. Oh, you're talking to me. Okay, that's Devevo. Yeah.
Well, comedy is.
It's out there.
Comedy is not pretty.
Yes. Well, but you've been doing stand-up for just a little while.
Almost a year. Well, you know what? In the summer, it'll be 2 years.
Okay.
Technically.
Okay.
As the calendar flies. I haven't, like, for a normal person that would be like, hey, I want to get into comedy. They do it at least once a week. But I have my day job takes me away from that. Gig. But I've always been interested in it. I've always been a huge fan of it. There's a ton of stand-up comedians that I followed when I was a kid. And then a guy named John Branyan, you probably heard of him. He's a great stand-up comedian. But we were interacted on Twitter, and he did a school online, and I was like, oh man, I think I missed the sign up. And he was like, hey, just take it for free. Tell me what you think. And I went, oh, okay. So about halfway through, I just went, it'd be dumb for me to learn how to write comedy and not. So I'd signed up for my first 5-minute open mic, and since then, I've been invited to do some things, and I've done some other things. But now I'm like, well, man, let's just do. The thing that people say, you have to do something that scares you every day.
Right.
And that's me. That's my right now. That scares them.
I can only imagine.
And and then
sorry.
No.
The other guys are like,
That's Casting Crowns' rival, Mercy Me. So, speaking of Casting Crowns, sorry, Jerry, but I got to ask this question. What is it like being married to the violin player of Casting Crowns.
Yes.
Oh.
I mean, that's got to be cool.
I think a better question is, what is it like being married to the guitar player? I need to ask her that.
She's not here to ask.
Right.
No. Well, it's one of the blessings of being with her on the road is I don't have to leave my family, because we all come. If our rule is if mom's on the road, then the babies come on the road. And so we have our whole family. So anytime we sit down and Melanie is Mark's wife, our road manager, and she'll go, guys, we have opportunity to play a couple more dates. I don't vote for that at all because everybody else has to leave their family. I'd be like, oh, yeah. Let's do all the concerts. Why not? Stay out. It's great. And everybody else is like, I want to see my family, please. My children don't even know what I look like anymore. But the downside of that, though, is that they get to – a bus is enclosed. There's no – when you have a marital disagreement, there's nowhere to walk out and slam the door. You're doing 70 miles an hour down the interstate. You can't go, I'm out of here. Slam the door. No coming back from that one.
I'm interested in your influences. I've been a big fan of comedy. One of my early dreams was to have the largest collection of comedy albums in the world. And when
you still have any of those?
No, not the vinyl anymore. But when Spotify at the end of the year they tell you your most played artists, all mine were stand-up comedians.
What did you?
No
what was your
music.
number one?
I think Jim Gaffigan was.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, he's
yeah.
awesome. When I started really coming into my own, Comedy Central was actually two different networks. There was the Ha Network and like the Comedy Network, and they would play routines, stand-up routines, like MTV would play music videos.
Yeah.
So you'd get everybody's name. Bobby Collins, Dennis Leary was big back then. What was I just talking about today? Oh, Kevin Meaney. Do you remember Kevin Meaney?
Yes, I remember
Emo
Kevin Meaney,
Phillips,
yes.
Like every single.
Oh, Emo was
person.
good.
Yeah.
Emo was good.
So those were big. I love those guys.
Yeah.
Who today?
And then now,
This current.
there's a guy, not so well known, Paul F. Tompkins has got. See, this is the thing though. Not everybody has totally clean language.
Yeah, no, I totally
yeah,
get that.
yeah.
Totally get
No, but and then the guys that have been helping me out, Ed Wiley's been doing it, John Branyan, Tim Hawkins, all those guys, Bob Smiley, Ken Kington,
Oh, yeah.
Ken Davis, those guys live in the
Ken,
area.
yeah, Ken's local.
They're fantastic. They're great. So check those guys out, those last few guys.
Some good stuff there. Yeah. Well, how did you get what finally persuaded you to pursue the comedy?
It was those two things, the opportunity to learn how to write, because to do prepared comedy, everybody thinks they can tell jokes, and then you get up with a microphone and you're like, I tell these at Thanksgiving with the family and they kill, but I can't seem to be able. So you really have to learn how to do that. And when I went through that class of learning how to write it down, and you have to actually edit words out because you take a long time to explain things. So to get those 3 lines down, I'm like, well, might as well try it out to do it. Because usually if you take, like Rick Roberts is another guy that's been helping me. He does a school, and at the end of his class, everybody does their 5 minutes. They go rent out a comedy club and do their 5 minutes.
Wow.
And I didn't have that. I was by myself on a computer doing a home correspondence course. So I just signed up for myself, and that's the other thing, was that it scared the mess out of me. So I was like, I gotta do this. I can't be middle-aged and scared of stuff.
Right.
Right?
So-
I can't be scared of things.
So how much material do you have?
In minutes or actual
Minutes.
So far, all I've ever done is tell people that I don't tell anybody I'm doing comedy, because I just tell them I'm doing presentations until I'm able to say things and people laugh. That's when I'm like, okay, now I'm doing comedy, but right now I'll do a presentation, and I've done as much as 20 minutes before, but
Man, that's 20 minutes is a long
That is,
time.
yeah.
none of that's like the tight 5 people talk about. I haven't gotten to that yet, but we'll see tonight. I'm gonna have 10 minutes tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got a song.
How often do you write?
So I try to do it every day. It'd be cool. That's what was cool about Twitter. That was another thing, is Twitter was able to get you to say things a certain way, so you can fit it into this one little box. So I got a lot on there that I try to write something every day. Something funny occurs to me.
You know
I'll
what's
put it
great
out there.
about him tweeting is we get this show prep service, and he's got this section for humor,
Yeah.
and you always make it.
Yes.
Make it on the list. That's
You do.
fantastic.
But what's hilarious is
there are other people in Casting Crowns that make it too, like Cool Dad, Mark Hall.
Oh yeah, Cool Dad's
and Megan. Megan makes a lot of. You got. It must be a riot hanging out on that tour bus with you guys.
Anything that's good that happens all the time, loses. Like there was a play called Christmas Every Day. So yeah, people ended up hating it and stuff. So we, that's why it's good to have some time apart.
Right.
First few days is awesome, and we love each other. Megan's got 3 kids, so she's got plenty of stuff to write about.
So maybe there's thoughts of the Casting Crowns, the comedy tour.
Yeah.
We'll come out with. We can start with Cool Dad and tell stories.
That would be incredible, though. You guys get out there and do some comedy. Warm yourself up before you actually come out there as a band.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think everybody would be confused. They're like, what is this? Where's Praise You in the Storm? East to West. If you've ever seen a live show, though, Mark will tell jokes while he's talking. But then he'll end up going into East to West. That's the best part of that is like he'll tell some jokes, and then all of a sudden we're singing Voice of Truth, and it's like, well, hey, how did we get here?
It's a hard right,
Do you have a style yet, or like some people are observational comics, some people are joke comics, some are prop? What do you?
I have no idea.
But didn't you just say you're going to have a song tonight?
Yeah. So I work with our youth at church, and then the last maybe like 4 or 5 years they started going, hey, Juan, you and one of the youth pastors, you guys be like a character. You can host youth camp and stuff, and you can do like little skits and stuff. You do comedy, right? So I was like, all right, whatever. We started off because we do our camp in Alabama, so we were 2 rednecks the whole week, and we do redneck things.
It's in their natural environment.
It's evolved over the years and stuff. So last year we were guys competing to be interns on a cruise ship. So, but we weren't rednecks. We lost the southern accent. But like in the last 3 years, I had we ran out of stuff to do, and I just write down ideas, and I have actually have a list of sketch ideas that I'm probably never going to do. But I also have a list of band names.
Yeah.
You ever talk about something and somebody says something weird, like the other day it was like Savory Cake?
That's a great name for a band.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. You know what I thought would be a great name for a band back in the day when I was a kid in the 80s? Members Only. Come on.
Was there not?
There should have been if there wasn't.
Yeah, it's a crime if there wasn't a band called Members Only.
Members Only.
So I write those down, and I had a couple of song ideas. It'd be cool to do this as a song. And then I said, well, I got this chorus for Stupid Little. And they're like, do that, write that. And I'm like, okay. So I had a pressure. It was like 2 days to write the rest of this song. The first one is what I'm singing tonight, actually. It's an ode to morphine.
An ode to morphine?
Yeah. Only as prescribed by a doctor.
Okay. Because
that little disclaimer.
Because this is going to be a show in a church, so you got to be careful with that.
I'm going to say that the only time that you take these drugs is when it's prescribed by a doctor. So,
or if you're on the battlefield and the medic happens to jab it into you.
Yeah.
Still a doctor. Still a guy. That's somebody else.
A medical professional.
Right. But speaking of doing a comedy show in a church, I mean, you've got to get out and branch out into other type venues too, I guess, right?
Speaking of things that scare me, there's a place called the Laughing Skull in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
So I did 5 minutes there. 4 minutes, actually, 4 minutes. Because the light goes off and it means you got a minute left, and I just went, okay, I'm done.
How'd it go, though?
And that was kind of like, the first time you go off the high dive as a kid.
Yeah.
You don't do a swan dive. You just jump off and go, okay, I didn't die. So that was it. That's why I did that.
Yeah.
I may do it again, maybe, and try to actually do something cool, but it was basically just to stand there on that stage and go, okay, I didn't have a heart attack,
and nobody threw
anything, so I'm good.
Where do you find the open mic? Is there a secret open mic?
Yeah, I can't tell you. I'm not allowed to.
But now I gotta kill you.
Well, so there's coffee shops and stuff, and I knew a guy that was already in comedy, so I was like, hey, do you know where I could go? So he told me a couple of places, and through there, somebody out there's actually a guy who's doing really well, Andrew Stanley.
Oh yeah, that's
Andy Stanley's
son. Yeah,
and he's killing it. And
yeah,
he's awesome.
He's so
great
funny.
comedian. And I ran across him. I was like, do you know any other open mics? So there was just like this list that everybody had compiled, and it's just like a Google calendar. So you just go on there and either you show up or you put your name in a hat or you got to email somebody. And it's not you're talking about doing comedy in a church. It's not doing comedy in a church.
Right.
It's like doing comedy in a locker room. And then you get up and tell, jokes about cats and stuff. And so it feels a little different. But we are called to be salt and light. So
absolutely,
that's
right.
Cats, that's light.
Do you have aspirations for where you want to go with this? I mean, you got Casting Crowns going on for it to fall back on, right?
So
Just in case.
When I talked to Ed Wiley and he goes, "You want to do comedy? I thought you were happy." But I don't know, the way I've done, especially the way Casting Crowns came up too, the way we were able to do that, it was opportunities that God would open to us, and we'd go, okay, well, let's play here. All right, well, let's play this. All right, let's write these songs down and sing them on a CD and give them to students. And so that's how it happened for Crowns. I'm just getting opportunities, so I don't really, I don't want to be on Jimmy Fallon or anything, or there's a thing called dry bar comedy. I'm not necessarily aiming for that. I just want to be good. I got an opportunity to do this, so I'm trying to do it the best I can and let God do whatever he wants to with it. And like you said, if I stink at it, it doesn't even I got zero risk right now. I just look like a dummy. That's pretty much the biggest risk I got.
When you said, are you happy, do you find so you're starting to hang out with some comedians? A lot of these guys, their comedy comes from pain, or a lot of them are troubled individuals.
Yeah.
I mean, the best comics are the ones that are the most broken, almost, it seems.
Yeah,
do you find that to be true?
Yeah, something John Branyan told me was like, anytime you feel embarrassed or angry, that's where the comedy is.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the counterintuitive. You're like, it's supposed to be funny. But I found that, at least with the Christian comics I hang out with, their purpose is so much above all that and all the success that they don't have to. That's not something that they may be mining that, like if they've had pain or trouble in their life, they may be mining that for comedy, but it's not directing them. Whereas other guys I've met, they're like in that river, and it's pushing them along, and it's cool to see that contrast. And I kind of feel a burden for these guys that are like high anxiety, high depression, and the only moment that they live is right there on stage, and they're alive, and they come off and they're dead inside again. So I was like, man, maybe there's something here. Maybe I could be a missionary to the comics. I don't know. That's another story.
Yeah. Well, I'll get back to Melody here.
Okay.
Because does she think you're funny?
No. That's what I work with teenagers, and I'm like, that's the advice I give all the guys. I'm like, guys, when you find a girl that won't laugh at anything, that's probably
that's the one.
She either hates your guts or that's the one you need to marry. Maybe both.
Yeah.
But she'll laugh at herself more than me. She'll make jokes.
She's laughing at her own jokes?
Yeah, she's laughing at her own jokes. I'm like, you're right, that's funny. You have a right to laugh at that. But if I have told her like a whole routine I thought up in the shower, came out and I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And she was like, no.
Dream crusher.
So, and then you guys were talking about recording me and using and I was like, well, I got these bits. You've heard of Melody. Should I do this one? And she's like, no. I was like, should I do this one? She's like, no, not that one.
Did any get the Melody stamp of approval?
For a year. I don't know. Nothing that I'm doing tonight. She likes the song.
She likes the song.
So I'm doing it last. So no matter how bad I do for the first 6 minutes, at least I got that.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about if you sing a comedy song, you can't hear everybody being quiet. If they laugh, they laugh. But you can just sing, and you keep singing, you're making noise. You don't hear the silence.
Yeah.
At least you're filling the silence with music. You got that going for you.
Can we talk about Casting Crowns just for a bit here? Because you guys, you just finished touring. You got spring tour coming up too.
Yeah.
Any recording going on? What's next for Casting Crowns?
The cycle that we're on a rhythm now. We'll be writing all this year, and I think we'll record like towards the end of the year or the beginning of next year. Mm-hmm. So new CD next year is the plan. With no dates. We're not putting dates on anything. Because it's like, well, why don't we just jinx it right now? I'll say next year, January 16th. No, I'm just kidding. No, it'll be next year. We'll have a CD again, another album. And the cool thing is we're touring with Matthew West, and Mark writes a lot of songs with Matthew. When they get together, Matthew's like a machine.
Dude, that guy is hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
But songwriting machine too. So.
Yeah. So on a tour, I don't know if you've seen him live. He'll just write a song about the town.
Yeah, he's done that.
Yeah.
He's come into the studio and done that as well. Yeah, with the morning cruise.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so that pushes Mark. Mark will have really great ideas, but then Matthew's like, well, what about this idea? He'll just start throwing out ideas for it. They get songs written.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed. Yeah. Got a little song called Nobody that's out there.
It's
Yeah.
a song like
doing
that.
pretty well. That's great. Did you guys have anything that...
Well, I wanted to ask you, I mean, there
Yeah.
was one thing that I remember that was in our show prep we talked about before. You and Melody had a little to-do about cheesecake.
What was our to-do?
You
Oh,
had to have flavored cheesecake.
Okay,
and
so-
she
Likes plain
appreciated
cheesecake?
It's a weird, it's a bad analogy, but in my head, cheesecake is like grits. It's a horrible. So nobody just eats grits. You
Right.
put butter in grits, or you
Oh,
put
yeah.
bacon or
Yeah.
eggs, or because that's most people that I've heard complain about grits are A, from the north, and B, they've never put anything in it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't taste like anything. Like, you're supposed to put. It's the canvas on which you create your art. So plain cheesecake.
But
It's
have you
just-
ever tried New York Italian cheesecake?
So is there a place that I need to go?
You know, I don't know of
Somewhere
any
in New York.
Georgia. Yeah,
Yeah.
We'll have to get some for him.
They'll ship. I bet you
Yes,
we found a place
yeah.
that'll ship it.
What's the place?
Junior's New York cheesecake.
Are they still
And
around?
Junior's.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Junior's is
So
still,
that's the
that's
one.
world.
That's the one.
That's very famous.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to get you some.
And they just do they do it plain? They just ship it to
they
you
do
plain.
it. Yes,
And you
they
eat
do.
it plain.
Will they
Yeah.
do like a sampler?
I don't know. You know,
In case he
that's a
doesn't
good
like the
question.
plain,
It's
and
been
they
so
get
long
him some
since
with
I've had it,
raspberry or
but-
something. Just in
Like I'm
case.
sitting there going, see, I told you. Like, but we have a whole cake. we should have got the chocolate.
Yeah. We don't want to do that to him.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, there's a whole restaurant, Cheesecake Factory.
Oh, yeah,
I don't
but
think
those
you
can
can
order.
You can't even order plain cheesecake at Cheesecake Factory,
Right.
can you?
I don't know.
I
It's
don't
been so long since I've been
They
there.
would.
You know,
That would blow their minds. Could I just have plain cheesecake?
what?
Okay, so chocolate, right? No, the plain cheesecake. Well, we have
we even do
strawberries.
that?
Yeah.
That's great. All right, well, we're looking forward to seeing what you got tonight,
Yeah.
man.
Let
No
me ask
pressure.
you
No
something.
pressure.
Have you encountered any hecklers?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
How do
so
you
my
handle
story
that?
with that was I was at a coffee house, and they used a digital mixing board, and somehow it recorded like 20 seconds of what I just said and started playing it back to me. So I have been mocked by a soundboard. Basically, that was my thing. I was in the middle of doing it, and then I heard it say it again. I'm like, what is going on? So the guy's running from the back trying to stop. I don't know what was happening. It just kept playing the same one
same
sentence that I just said. It wasn't even the punchline. It was the
Comedy loop.
punchline, maybe. Yeah, it wasn't even funny. It was just a setup. But I thought that was funny. It was like I've not been bad enough for somebody to say something about it, but actually technology has heckled me. I might be the first to be heckled by technology.
Heckled by a
Right.
soundboard.
Right.
And any of us that have been on stage sometimes have been heckled by a soundboard as well. So, you know, I could attest to that. So after our conversation, we traveled to the Hall, which is a regular open mic night at First United Methodist Church in Warner Robins, to actually hear his set and to hear some of the other artists as well. And we're going to pick that up coming up in a couple of minutes.
Okay, you say some of the other artists. It was a full-blown open mic night. It started like at 7.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Jawan didn't go on till like 9.
So we had the whole experience, man.
Yes, we did.
Yes, and let me tell you, there are a lot of talented people in Warner Robins, but not all of them were there that night.
There were some there.
Bless
that
his
night,
heart.
There
though.
were some there.
There
Yeah,
were some there.
Be
yes,
nice,
yeah.
Jerry.
that was nice.
Well, I mean, it's an open mic. You know,
Yeah,
that's
that's
where
right.
it goes.
We'll catch back up with Jawan after his set and see how he thought he did, and we'll have some thoughts on that as well.
Now, we've got something special going on right now. If you're listening to the podcast early on, there is a contest going on that involves Juwan, and we're calling it Worst Joke Wins. So if you're a good joke teller, or if you're a horrible joke teller, that's probably even better, right?
Yeah, it would be better.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we want you to use the open mic feature with our app, the Joy FM Georgia app, and you can submit that to us, and you could possibly win tickets to hear Casting Crowns play in Athens with Matthew West. It's a sold-out concert, but we do have tickets. Now, the deadline to enter is February 19th at noon, and then Juwan's going to be in the studio with you, Jerry,
on the 21st.
Yes, that's Friday the 21st. Now, if you're already,
that's
all of that is already.
So if we're beyond February when you're listening to that, golly, you should have listened earlier.
Right. But here's the thing, where you'll find out more info about this contest is at thejoyfm.com. Make sure you choose Georgia when you go there. And under the features tab is where you're going to find featured content. That's where you'll see the Worst Joke Wins contest. But if it's late, you'll see all kinds of other cool stuff.
Right.
Contests. We've got info about the top 12 at 12 and local artist spotlight and all kinds of good stuff there. So you can check out what's going on at the Joy FM on our features page.
1 in 5 young adults who have aged out of foster care will become homeless. I'm Jules, and on the next Jules Show podcast, I talk with April Farlow, who is working to change that statistic by starting a ministry called Lydias Place that is providing basic needs to those young adults.
We want to step in. We want to house people when they can't, when they don't have a place to live. We want to love them when they don't have anybody to step in.
Learn more about Lydias Place by going to thejoyfm.com/Jules.
Do you want to give the visual? We're inside now.
That's right. We are in the ladies' Bible study room right
72 degrees now. I don't know if you guys do, if this is the situation in your house. I'm the IT guy. One of my many roles is I'm the IT guy.
Yes.
Nobody knows how electronics work. It's just all like little, can you get this magic box to work, this magic box? Absolutely everything is crashing at home. So like the Wi-Fi is not working. They
you
can't
getting
pull up
text?
the streaming stuff. Melody says our daughter's Nano isn't working. Oh, no. And then she goes, I need you to close the attic? I don't even know what that means. Why is the attic even open? Yeah. What are y'all doing while I'm gone? All you had to do was sit and watch TV while I was gone. Now I gotta.
Yeah. So how did you feel about the set?
So far, every time I do,
is that
comedy,
what it's called? Set?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a
with
set?
comedy, it's called a set. Yeah.
Okay.
So far, every time I've done something, I feel like I'm stunning the crowd.
Yeah.
Like they just jolt. Like they're jolted somehow. And I'm like, how is it? I'm just telling jokes, you guys. Laughing would be cool, but they're not.
Right. There was laughter.
Was there?
Laughter.
Yes.
Maybe I just can't hear it.
Audible laughter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
we got it on. I was about to say
Ed
on
was
tape.
like, he goes, they were with you. But to me, I'm like, maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe that's what it is. But I just feel like I shock. I'm not telling dirty jokes, but I feel like I shock them with whatever I'm talking about. I just talked about cats in my name.
Hey, I'm Juan. Juan? No, it's Italian. It's spelled like Juan. It's spelled like Juan, but you pronounce the J because it's Italian. Shouldn't it be Juan? I don't know, lady. I mean, I just explained it to you, but maybe you're right. You know, maybe I've been pronouncing my name wrong. You correct me on how I.
They're just sitting there going. Now, one time, my wife just goes, I don't think. She's trying to say that my jokes are too smart. And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. It's like my jokes are too smart for the crowd. It's like, if you're a good comedian, you're gonna, tell it the way people. So I don't know. We'll see. It's like I told when you texted me, you're like, we want to record your set, and I was like, look, I've only been doing this.
Yeah. He started the text with, "Look, here's the deal."
Just gotta prepare you. And so, when people are doing it like 3-4 times a week, it takes them 5 years to get where they're good.
Yeah.
And but
in fairness to you, though, this was more of a music night
than
a comedy night. So and they were maybe not.
That's why I'm glad I did the song too.
Yeah, well, that's true. But they did about 45 seconds in, they started to get the idea that, wait a minute, this guy's a comedian. And I heard the name stuff got some laughs. The cat stuff got some laughs.
Recently, I've become a cat person. A cat, one cat. It's kind of like it just makes me feel like I'm back in high school. He's like the cool kid, and then I'm trying real hard to be his friend, and he just barely tolerates me, and that's good. I'm okay with that.
That's
That
true
got
to
some
life,
laughs.
my friend.
That got some laughs.
Mm-hmm.
And then morphine
better
just
than
killed.
Pop
I think
Off.
Yeah.
that was
good.
that was a great way to finish it off.
Thanks,
Yes.
man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I had that one in my. I was like, if I do everything wrong, at least I got the song, and that's a little amusing, and that'll keep them entertained for a little bit.
Right.
I can end on an upswing at least.
And the sing-along was great at the end, too.
yeah.
Did anybody sing?
And there were a few people. I heard the morphine, you know.
Oh, did they? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I did.
That's great.
For a bone that's broken, or an organ that's out of place, there's only one thing, prescription, that can help the human race. And this part's interactive, so you guys can sing it if you got it by now. And you get you that morphine. It's a broken person's dream. Better than ice pack. Make better than ice pack. Better than aspirin. And give me the morphine. I don't need another thing. And I'd be set for a real long time. And it would be real keen. And it would help you get your rest if you can't seem to locate your spleen. And you get you that morphine. If you give me the morphine. Thank you.
That's the other thing that you may not mention on your podcast, but you guys had to sit through the whole open mic. They put me at the end.
We'll talk about that. I tell you what you did tonight, and what especially the people who performed original material did, was really gutsy. I mean, it's you're putting yourself out there for a bunch of strangers. That really takes, and I try to keep that in mind as I'm critiquing them in my mind. Please finish. Thinking, but you know what? This guy's out there, and he's just laying it out there.
Right.
You got to give him some credit for that.
Without a net.
Really
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a linoleum floor and concrete wall, so it reverberates as there's nobody's doing anything. It's kind of just echoing, especially when you're telling jokes. That's really good to hear your voice bounce back at you.
When you do this, do you learn from what?
Oh yeah,
every
night.
Yeah.
So the worst part is, and the best advice and the worst thing that I have to do is to listen to you record yourself and you listen to yourself. So I had somebody record me off stage. So now on the way home, I'm gonna listen to myself. And I'm so, it's the worst thing. I don't know if you guys listen to yourself on the podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but when you're listening to it, you go, okay. Well, the one thing, so I told you about the thing I did at Laughing Skull. I recorded myself there, and I thought it went horribly. And I listened to it again. I was like, okay, it wasn't as bad as I was imagining. So there's times when it goes well. You just got to be so depressed when you come off the stage that when you listen to it, you're like, okay, it wasn't that bad.
Not bad as I thought.
Right.
Well, man, this has been great. I've had so much fun. Actually
on a Friday night.
On a Friday night,
Warner Robins,
hanging out at First Methodist in Warner Robins on an open mic. Man, it was good.
I'm glad you guys gave me the time.
Yeah,
I like the attention. Thank you.
Well, thanks for inviting us.
Yes.
Yeah, we appreciate it. It's a really brave thing to do, to get on a stage and to do comedy. I've never done it. I'm just very enamored by somebody that would even have the courage to do something like that. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, a couple of things that Juan said in our conversation really brought it home for me in the fact that, when he said that with that first time he went out and did comedy and he had 5 minutes, but he cut it off at 4, it's hilarious, but you got to start somewhere and you got to jump in. And, he realizes, being someone that has walked in faith for a long time, he's a part of Casting Crowns, and he's around people that feed into his faith a lot. He realizes that, the Lord is with him in whatever he does. And that includes this. Now, I can say this tongue in cheek, sort of, but when it comes down to it, in Deuteronomy, Moses is talking about how the Israelites are going to go into the promised land. And he says this to them before they go in: be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Now, when he's talking about them, he's talking about their enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And, it could be hecklers, or it could just be the fear of getting in front of people and doing something. But Juan also said that he wanted to do this and however the Lord has him use it. He wanted to be used in that way. He talked about doing this with a youth group, using comedy to help relate to them. Just like with Tyson Moore in our last episode, whatever you're doing, do it in the name of the Lord. It says in Colossians 3:17, and whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. And I think it was a great example of him doing
absolutely,
that.
yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And just doing something that made him a little bit uncomfortable, even though that desire to do comedy or to do anything, if we are being true to our calling in God and we hear his voice, sometimes he'll tell us what he wants us to do by putting that desire to do it inside of us. The psalmist talks about that God will give you the desires of your heart. And to me, at first I thought that meant anything I desired, God's going to give me. No. God places the actual desire in your heart. God gives you the desire to do something that he wants you to do so that you are then able, because that's the first step of doing anything, is you got to want to do it. For Juwan, it's stand-up comedy.
Right.
He said that it's scary. He's still scared getting up on stage to do that, although he's performed in front of thousands and thousands of people with Casting Crowns, but he's doing something that's a little bit different from him. So that's one of the ways God will let you know what he wants you to do. He'll give you a desire to do it.
Absolutely. And I hope he keeps on doing it.
Yes,
I'm sure he will. He's a really funny guy. So you should follow him on social media. You will get a laugh just about daily. I think he posts something every day on Instagram and Twitter. So make sure you're following Juwan.
Right.
A couple of episodes ago, we had our daughters in here, and we called it the Dords episode, Daughters of Radio Dad.
Yes.
Well, on the next episode of the Finding Joy podcast, we're going to talk with someone who could have been a charter member of Dords and then also have her daughter be a member of Dords. We're going to talk with Paige, who you hear on the Joy FM every evening from 7 until midnight, because she was raised in a radio family. Her mom and dad owned a little radio station in Alabama.
Right.
And she, what was she, like 12 years old when
I think
she
so,
first
yeah.
started working at the radio station? So we're going to visit with Paige, and I think probably without much arm bending, we'll get her mom and dad to join the conversation as well on the next episode.
So thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Finding Joy podcast. And there are so many platforms you can find the Finding Joy podcast on: Apple, Google Play, Stitcher. The list goes on and on and on. But the best way to do it is just go to our website, thejoyfm.com. Go to the podcast page. You'll see the Finding Joy podcast, and we've got all the information with all of the platforms where you can find it.
And you can find a link also on the show notes for that. And while you're looking at the show notes, when you see the stars there, fill in that 5th star. Give us a 5-star rating.
You have to click 5 times or just on the 5th?
Just on the 5th. Yeah, if you start on the 1, that's going to be bad. Don't start at the 1. That'll help more people find us. And while you're there, you can leave us a review as well. And if you have any comments or suggestions, maybe someone you feel that would be a great subject for the Finding Joy podcast, send us an email at findingjoypodcast@thejoyfm.com.
You can also follow us on all kinds of social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. We put bonus material up on the website all the time, and all of that, again, easiest way to find anything about us, thejoyfm.com. Make sure you select Georgia, the on-air tab, scroll down to the Joy FM podcast, and we're listed right there. Next episode of the Finding Joy podcast comes your way on February the 27th.